So I look at your op-ed that you wrote
Yeah.
about the janitor strike.
Yeah, you are deep.
Oh
my
I'm
gosh,
not letting you
you're
off the
going
hook,
deep.
buddy.
I love that.
If you're gonna come in,
Because that was my stage rap.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
There was another section that I wanted to react to, and this is clip 3, where he talks about Vivek, an op-ed that Vivek wrote while he was going to college in Harvard. Let's play clip 3.
Yeah.
So I look at your op-ed that you wrote about the janitor strike.
Yeah, you are deep.
Oh
my gosh,
I'm not letting you
you're
off the
going
hook,
deep.
buddy.
I love that.
If you're gonna come in,
Because that was my stage rap type stuff.
Stage rap type stuff, right?
The Harvard Crimson. I
The Harvard
this.
Crimson, you write an op-ed. And I was involved in that janitor strike because I just took over Local 25 at the time. We're the biggest union in Boston. And we control.
Is that right?
We control rubbish, trash, everything.
You took over now. Yeah, for back then.
But we did.
You were there back then.
I was there back then. I was the head of local. I was 34 years old.
Is that right? I was 18.
And very, very sympathetic. Everybody was sympathetic to the janitors, justice for the janitors, especially at Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
And your op-ed suggested that, you weren't that supportive of them. You were more
I
supportive.
wasn't supportive of the students who were protesting in an open manner.
But I think some of your quotes were, and again, this is not to demoralize or bring a negative in, but I want to get the positive views out there. So
absolutely.
You
have to remind me.
You made some comments. Oh, I got them written down.
Yeah.
You've made some comments, right? One was, this is going to compromise the relationship between the more fortunate versus the less fortunate, because a lot of these student fees now are going to have to go towards this janitor's livable wages. And looking back at that comment, I look at that and say, and I grew up not too far from Harvard.
Yeah.
And we'd look at Harvard students.
Okay, so I just want to pause it right here and, just emphasize, this is a cool opportunity, I think, for Sean O'Brien to show some of his labor bona fides, because he was the president of this local when it was going out on strike, and Vivek was writing against it. So presumably he would know a lot about the things that were going on during that strike, and he would know a lot about some of the things. And so there's a cool opportunity here to kind of show that, okay, right now, if one was interested in such a project, you could show that right now Vivek is interested in, and he has been a part of making lives worse for working people all across the country through the Doge thing. And this has been a long project for him. And here he was writing against the janitors who were going on strike at Harvard. And he says specifically, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea, he makes a few different arguments in his op-ed, but he does say very clearly supporting a higher wage for these janitors would simply be taking the wrong stance. Okay, let's continue.
They're great, they're good, but they're rich kids. They're all rich kids that are going there. You make that statement, and those are the people, and I was always brought up that the janitor is just as important as the CEO of a company. They add just as much value. That wasn't the perspective of that op-ed back then, and that wasn't the way it came across.
The perspective of that 18-year-old was that this college costs way too much, and I'm worried about, think about $45,000 a year or whatever it is, and you got students who are actually, many of them coming from wealthy Manhattan Upper East Side suburbanites who came from far wealthier backgrounds than I did growing up, somehow sanctimoniously protesting for that cause. That was the 18-year-old perspective in me at that particular point in time. But the real answer is that these universities are actually wasting their money on not just the fact that the tuitions are high because of the janitor pay, the tuitions are high because of everywhere else they're wasting their money.
If looking back right now, what you said then and what your opinion is now, I mean, do you support a livable wages for those folks?
I do, absolutely. Now, I think that part of the issue is that you have too much red tape and bureaucracy in the university. I mean, look at how many, you want to know where the real money's going? The over-proliferation of associate deans of God knows what.
Okay, and again, that's the end of, Sean O'Brien does not go past, do you support a livable wage for these people? And he just allows Vivek to get away with saying yes.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
What? There's just so much more there that you could have done. You could have said, right now, Sean O'Brien talks about at a different point in the podcast, Teamsters represent 45,000 workers in Ohio, and he could pull one of the contract negotiations that are going on right now and say, sanitation staff at such and such city that the Teamsters represent, the garbage truck workers, they're, right now they make this much, they're trying to get this much in their contract. Is that something that you would support? Yes or no? What does a livable wage? What should the minimum wage in Ohio be? What should the minimum wage for public sector workers in Ohio be? Would you support a strike of public sector workers in Ohio? Would you support a strike of sanitation workers at Ohio's colleges? There's lots of things, and you wouldn't have to ask all of them, because if you get answers to some of them, then, the answers to others logically follow. But just saying, would you support now, looking back, those janitors making a livable wage, and him saying yes? That's not enough, especially when he was so clear, because Vivek is trying to make it seem like, I was just worried about the cost of my tuition going up. And, the argument that he makes is really, in the article, is really bonkers.
Well, that's just absurd on its face. We know that giving janitors a modest pay raise is not going to skyrocket your college tuition.
Right.
If your college tuition skyrockets after that, there's a problem, and it's not with the janitors. And, it's also absurd to think that, he talks about some of his motivations was basically, there were some of these rich kids at Harvard were protesting in favor of the janitors. Isn't that kind of sanctimonious and, weird? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, I can understand, having a chip on your shoulder if you're at an Ivy League institution and you're not like a quote unquote Ivy League family. I could get that. But what is wrong with people having solidarity with others?
Right.
I'm not, culturally, am I do I want to hang out with rich Manhattanites who went to Ivy League schools? Not really. But guess what? If they support our cause, if they want workers to be better off and live better lives, then hell yeah, I want their support. And I would gladly take it. And that is a different kind of mindset, and that's the kind of mindset that we try to instill with solidarity and thinking collectively. And, if these people do come from different backgrounds or more privilege or whatever, but they recognize the justice of our cause and are willing to stand in solidarity and support with us, then, by all means, let's work together.
Well, and it's like that argument that you always get, people advocating for left-wing policies. If you're wealthy while you're advocating for left-wing policies, then you're sanctimonious or you're hypocritical or blah, blah, blah. And if you're poor and advocating for left-wing policies, then you're just greedy and trying to take money from people who have it and blah, blah, blah. And so you can never, the actual, the logical endpoint of all of these stuff is that you can never advocate for left-wing policies, including higher wages for janitors.
Right. And to be clear, that's really how it's looked at, is left-wing policies is code for better. Mm-hmm. Better, just better. We want better. We want better wages, better health care, better retirement, better safety, better quality of life, better environment for our kids to grow up in. Whatever it looks like, anything that is better than the status quo, anything that demands just even a modest, slight adjustment and make our lives better, that's considered, radical and outside of the norm and extreme and problematic and all of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I wanted to read a little bit just so that people can hear Vivek's argument from the article. So he says, rather, if the living wage campaign were successful in achieving a wage increase for Harvard's lowest paid workers, it will have done so at the cost of respect that the rest of the Harvard community has for these workers. A cost that, no matter how high the wage increase, is too high. And so his argument here is that if you pay the janitors more, maybe pay them what they're worth, then I will have less respect for them because they get paid more money, which is strange.
That's your problem, dude.
The notion is more intuitive than the formal argument makes it seem. When a Harvard student knows that the university has allocated a greater portion of his or her fees to pay the wage of a janitor at a higher level than the laws of supply and demand would require. I mean, this is just such a like Econ 101 sort of sentence. The laws of supply and demand require, I mean, it's like, that's a little bit, that's kind of funny.
Guess what? When workers organize collectively, we can change those laws of supply and demand.
A condescending strain of sympathy subtly yet naturally replaces the mutual human respect that otherwise would have existed. The higher level of Harvard fees allocated to paying the higher wages is the price paid to purchase a right to condescend, a right that Harvard has no prerogative to sell in the first place. To know that the nature of every polite exchange, be it a greeting or a handshake between the more and less privileged members of Harvard's community, would be forever altered by redistribution is not worth any material benefit that may come out of that exchange, even a higher wage for already poorly paid workers. I mean, like,
no material benefits. So,
what a bunch of freaks, right? I mean, like that's.
We know you can pay more bills moving forward. We know you can put more food on your table, but it's really not worth it because
then I would look down on you.
I would look down on you, and some of us feel weird about all this.
Yeah. What actual an actual freak, a weirdo. I mean, just wild. Okay.
And this is the fellow you want to spend your time talking to, and I'm okay with talking to people from the other side, so to speak, or people with opposing views. We do it all the time on the Valley Labor Report here on this show. We've had Alabama politicians that we disagree with. We've had callers and other guests who say things we don't necessarily like or agree with. That's okay. That's part of the project and part of doing this kind of media outreach. But to your point, I mean, when you look at who he's inviting on the show, when you look at his conduct with these kind of people, it's just really embarrassing. Yeah. It's embarrassing for someone who is supposed to be a leader of workers, and one of the most prominent working class leaders in our country.
Yeah,
it's really quite embarrassing.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.